Good morning. Welcome into 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel. You can also listen on PGA Tour Radio. That is Channel 92 on Sirius XM. I'm Gary Williams. Great to have you with us. Thanks for making time for us on this Wednesday morning. This program is always brought to you by Century Insurance, right by you. Spoke to that great team yesterday. We have so many interesting ideas that we are going to implement into this program. Thanks to their great support of this show, they are always right by you. And of course, Golf Pride, these 3 North Carolina-based companies mean so much to us. They mean so much to the economy of the state in which we do our show and where we live. And Golf Pride is trusted by more players at every level than any grip company anywhere in the world. Peter Millar, everything I'm wearing, including this little Covington soft coat today, you can get it from them because wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, they have you covered when it comes to apparel. And of course, Pinehurst, we started the week with Tom Pashley, the president of Pinehurst, introducing and announcing the fact that they are adding an 11th golf course to their offerings. It will be a Core Crenshaw. Why wouldn't they? They've got Donald Ross, they've got Gil Hanse, they've got Tom Doak. And now they are going to have an original Core Crenshaw coming in 2027. Not to mention, they've got the cottages now. Starting in the month of May, they're available for you at Pinehurst number 8, which just underwent a restoration renovation about 18 months ago. That's what they're doing, always making Pinehurst better. All right, this program, we're going to have some twins on today. Twins are interesting. I grew up around some twins, and they always seem to dress exactly alike. They did the same things. The 2 guys are going to be joining us. They dress similarly, but their parents went out of the way to make sure that they did different things so that they could think on their own. And I'm speaking of Nicolai and Rasmus Hojgaard. They are, I guess, favorites among the favorites. You could make 10, 12 teams at the Zurich Classic favorites. But the 24-year-old twins from Denmark, one's already been on a European Ryder Cup team. They would both like to represent Europe this year at Bethpage. They're going to be joining me here in about 15 minutes. And of course, they're down there at Avondale, Louisiana, site of the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. A little bit later on, Tom Abbott. Tom is somebody who has not only been covering all of golf, but specifically the LPGA for well over a decade. He was a longtime host as well of Big Break. We were talking about Big Break. I would love it if Big Break was resuscitated in some form. He's the perfect host for that. He's also a great commentator when it comes to understanding and being an expert on women's golf. And with the Chevron being this week, we're going to have our picks for the Chevron. We will also have our picks for the Zurich Classic. We also have Club 5. And we also, most importantly, have God's creatures who will finish this program appropriately at the end of the show with Dogs of the Week. And please send your dog that has any relationship with the game of golf in to dogs@5clubsgolf.com. But let's begin with the women's first major. And more importantly than just this event this week, where women's professional golf is, and you can even extend it beyond that, because I think there are a lot of things that have transpired here over the last decade or so that have put women's golf, and in the grander scheme, what we're seeing in women's sports, on a much bigger stage with more interest, more coverage, more chatter, more conversation. And a lot of that has to do with, and it's always going to start with the athletes themselves. They have to be great at what they do, they have to be compelling, and they have to be willing to engage with an audience that is growing. The only way to gain traction is by doing that. But one of the other ways that any entity can get bigger, stronger, and feel like it's got an even brighter future is when people invest in it. And the investment of time is the most precious thing that we all have, as I say periodically on this program. But I say this as well whenever I'm around an audience that includes corporate support, because the driving force of professional golf is sponsorship. And sponsorship is being asked to do more, and that more is dollars. Let's go back a decade and consider what a couple of companies did by making the choice to invest in golf. And that's what I say to whoever it may be. Thank you for choosing golf. Thank you for choosing these dollars, which you don't want to be something that you look at as a cost center, but more of an investment in your brand and using golf as the vehicle to drive that brand. KPMG made a choice starting in 2015 to become the title sponsor of the Women's PGA. And it wasn't just that. We've had sponsorship that has driven women's and men's professional golf for decades and decades and decades. But they made it at a level that was, wow, this is like a significant leap in terms of the amount of money that they are going to pay out to these players. And how do you realize that investment? By getting the support, by getting television, by getting fans to patronize the event and go to it. And they bet on the event. They bet on women's golf, and they did it as early as anybody. CME Group, they were also a leader more than a decade ago by saying, you know what, that end of the year event, we're going to have a purse that may not necessarily be outrageous in relation to all the others, but the winner is going to get one of the biggest take-home purses that any event has ever seen. Subsequently, since then, we've seen the likes of whether it be a Monday, who was aligned now with the Evian Championship. People in this country may not know that much about a Monday, but they manage trillions of dollars in the European community. More than $2 trillion are the assets that they manage. They're a massive company. So they've aligned their brand with the Evian Championship, which is a major played in France. How about Ally, and how about the United States Golf Association doing what they've done, knowing that in order to get a purse in excess of $12 million, think about that, $12 million for a women's purse and a women's major. That is the U.S. Women's Open, with Ally being the presenting sponsor. AIG, another one, made a choice several years ago to say, you know what, the Women's Open, we are going to align ourselves with that great championship. And then finally, and this is the most interesting one because it gets to something that's challenging for all of us, and that's change. And change that is associated with taking something that is not only nostalgic, but a familiarity to what it is that you're watching every year, which began as the Dinah Shore, the Nabisco Dinah Shore, and then it became something else, and you're going, okay, this is not what it used to be, but it was still at the same place. And a couple of years ago, the LPGA, in concert with Chevron, made the choice to move that event from the California desert to Houston, Texas. And you're going, man, that's a lot. That's sensory overload. I don't know if this is going to work. The best way to help things work is by the amount of money that you're willing to put behind it, to the tune of $8 million. So think about that. Think about the kind of money that women are playing for. And I know that some people may be saying, look, haven't you said that we're talking too much about money in the game? I think that's true as it applies to the men's game, because the men's game has always played for exponentially more money than women have. Women need to feel like, to a degree, that they have not necessarily equal footing, but that they're not light years away from what the men are playing for. Because if you have that, you then can invest in infrastructure. You can then say, you know what, we need to improve in terms of the type of data and advanced metrics that we provide to fans. And we have that now. Strokes gained, which is the data point that we use to kind of evaluate the performance of men, is now part of the LPGA. That's a big, big step. And then you need television to come along, and it's not just more hours, it's network television, which we've gotten now, and you will see the Chevron Championship on NBC over the weekend. But what you're also going to get is ESPN Plus, and them devoting countless hours starting tomorrow morning throughout the day, which is going to be augmenting the coverage you're going to be getting on Peacock and on Golf Channel. So consider this. And I promise you, all of this money is driving at something that to me is the most important point. When you consider that 5 years ago, the leading money winner on the LPGA made less than $3 million total over the course of this season. I'm not suggesting that's not really good money. This past year, in 2024, the leading money winner made more than twice that, at $6 million. But let's extend that further. 5 years ago, there were 14 players on the LPGA that made $1 million or more. You know how many made $1 million or more last year? 34. All of this gets to what I think is the thing that will drive interest, drive participation, and drive the pursuit of elite athletes at the scholastic level when they narrow their focus to saying, I'm going to do this. It's not accidental that the greatest athletes in this country, and you can argue whether playing wide receiver in the NFL requires more, including, a place that we don't talk about at parties, to go over the middle and make catches. I get that part. But overall, I think people would say that on consensus, the greatest athletes in the world play in the National Basketball Association, their metrics, their variables, their measurables. And when you apply all of that stuff, consider what they play for. Money is a motivating factor. And if there is more money in places as athletes at a young age start to make choices about their ultimate pursuit, it's not accidental that the best athletes in this country are now playing for guaranteed contracts in excess of $400 million. I'm not suggesting that the LPGA is going there. What I'm saying is that when you start to piece out the pie, if that piece for golf, as parents and kids start to look at where they want to go, and again, I'm not saying money's the greatest motivating factor, love, the joy of it all. However, it's part of it. I promise you that 10 years from now, when we start to see the best athletes from this country, as we're already seeing in other countries, because Sae-Ri Pak changed golf in Korea forever in 1998 by lighting the match on what could be possible there. And it's not accidental why Korea has been the most dominant nation when it comes to women's golf for the better part of a quarter century, because she started it. And now here is women's golf, not only with great players, they have the most global stage of anybody. They also have somebody from this country, which is such a vital market, that is not the most willing participant, but more willing than some of her past contemporaries in Nelly Korda. She's an athlete. She's telegenic. She has walked the red carpet at the Met. She's also been in the SI swimsuit issue. And you can say, well, what does that have to do with anything? There's cultural relevancy to all that. And when you break beyond the narrow lane of golf into these other areas, what you do is pull people into that narrow area, which is increasing the overall interest level in the game. All right, quick transition from that because Tom Abbott's going to be joining me. I just want to say this before we show you our Club 5, because we're going to open it early on a Wednesday. I've been lucky enough over the course of my career to be on site at various PGA Tour events at times that players have made their next start after whatever their previous start was, whether it was a major championship or not, when they've won that event. And I remember one in particular. Adam Scott won the Masters in 2013, and at this particular time, the schedule was such that it wasn't the next week, but for him, it was his next start. It was the Players' Championship at the beginning of May of 2013. And I saw him make his way from the locker room out to the practice tee in the throng of his contemporary, his peer group, welcoming him back and congratulating him. And I think about Rory McIlroy in an environment, naturally, because it's New Orleans, that it is a party to begin with. The coronation of him winning the Masters, which feels like for a lot of people a day ago, but it's been more than a week ago, for him to return this week in that environment alongside his best friend, it's going to be a celebration from the first tee to the last putt they hole, whatever the result is, whether it's defending their title or not. This is going to be a fun week for him. It's going to be a fun week for Shane. It's going to be a fun week for that event, which has had a very odd space on the calendar, made the choice they made, and now they got a guy who not only came last year and won, made the declaration he was going to come back, and now he's coming back with a green jacket. That green jacket, if you get something from Café Du Monde on that, I mean, you can dust off that powder on all those pastries, but there's some other sauces down there in New Orleans that if he gets it on the green jacket, he's going to have to send it out to dry cleaning, and I'm sure that he will be happy to do so. That is going to be fun. And one reminder, Rory McIlroy is scheduled to join Eamon and Damon on Golf Today, right around noon Eastern time. So with that, let's get to Club 5 before we take our first break, because the Hojgaards are going to be joining us. And when I looked at Club 5, and again, this is more of a heat index than it is some big divisor over the course of 6 months or 12 months, as you're going to see. Who is number 5? You know what? We have added Maverick McNeely to the Club 5 power rankings because he has added another top 3 finish, his second in a Signature Series event. He's got a second. He's got 2/3. That's off his first win last fall at the RSM. So why not enter him into the Club 5 power rankings? How about at number 4, Russell Henley? Another good result for him at the RBC Heritage. He got the win at the API, which is a Signature Series event. He's having a great season. He's likely to be on that United States Ryder Cup team. He deserves to be in the Club 5 power rankings. Now, this guy is still the #1 player in the world, and I think over the course of obviously that time, we know he's still got a big lead in the world rankings. But here, in the absence of a win this year, he's got a second, he's got a third, he's got a fourth. His worst results, it seems like, are 12th. And he almost touched the lead this past weekend at the RBC Heritage, and then he made a double on 15. So it produced for him, what was it, a tie for 8th? Oh my, what a horrible result. He's 3rd in the FedEx Cup standings, but the difference is last year at this time he had 4 wins, including the Heritage. All right, how about at number 2? He launches himself into the club, and he deserves the place that we've given him. He just won the Heritage. He has the 2 seconds at the Valspar and at the American Express. Justin Thomas is back where he believes he belongs, among the absolute best. And what is better than Club 5? And number 1, he's having the dream season. Off completing his career Grand Slam, winning the Masters. He's won the Players. He won at Pebble. My gosh, he is, who knows what the end of the year is going to look like. But Rory McIlroy right now is at the top of the Club 5 power rankings. All right, we're just getting started. When we continue here, Nicolai and Rasmus Hojgaard are going to join us from Avondale, Louisiana. They are in the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. Their thoughts on life growing up in the game together, supporting each other, and is it possible that maybe they could do something this week nobody else could get away with? They join us next right here on 5 Clubs on Golf Channel and on PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM. Great to have you with us on a Wednesday. Back after this. Back in on this Wednesday, it is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. Please listen as well. Channel 92 on Sirius XM, that is PGA Tour Radio. And this segment is brought to you by Golf Pride. When it comes to grips for any player at any level, the new Align Max, the grips that I've got on all of my clubs, not to mention the reverse taper putter grip, they've got the answer for you, whatever your level of play. The elite level, well, they're at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. Handicapping this field, not easy. Now, you can take chalk and take Rory and Shane Lowry. How about guys who know each other as well as is humanly possible? Well, we're being joined now by Rasmus and Nicolai Hojgaard, who are now sharing time together, both members of the PGA Tour, and they join us from the Media Center down there in Avondale, Louisiana at the Zurich Classic. Guys, you've had a lot of firsts here lately. You guys were paired together in Houston. You both played in the Masters together. I know you're getting ready to get this thing going tomorrow. Are you guys sick of each other?
Not yet. But we just, we're looking forward to this week. We played it last year together, and really excited to get going and enjoy each other's company.
Now, I know you do. Look, there was a great article that I read at PGAtour.com, and I thought it explained a lot, and I recommend it to people about you guys' backgrounds and the choices your parents made. I grew up around some twins, and I felt like they wore the same clothes. I felt like they did all the same things. Nicolai, was one of the best things that your parents did for you and your brother was that they didn't make you not only look like each other in terms of your appearance, that you guys did different things growing up?
Yeah, I mean, they did a really good job at picking different colors for clothing, and we never wearing the same stuff. But we did end up do all the same sports together. And but they done a good job not just making it into one, but keeping us separate and get into our own personality and own career. So, but to be fair, we're very similar, even though they tried to make a big thing out of it of separating us. But yeah, it's fun sitting here now and see where we ended up.
Rasmus, I honestly think you guys have a lot of the same sponsorship. I think if you wore that same Callaway hat, if you wore the same Adidas gear in the alternate shot, I honestly think you guys could get away with one of you just playing all the shots on like 4 straight holes. Have you guys thought about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we could, but there would be some golf perps out there that would recognize the swing straight away. But yeah, I'm sure that when we got exactly the same gear on, it's going to be very difficult for people to tell us apart.
Rasmus, let me ask you this, because you guys, I know, support each other through and through. But you know how this sport is that the comparisons that you have of not only people your age, but people you compete against growing up around, the idea of supporting your brother through and through, was that ever a challenge for you?
100%. Growing up, it was very difficult to see the other one have success, and our parents did a great job of, sitting us down, and we had to talk about the problem. And then obviously through the years, we've matured quite a bit, but it also helped our relationship that, when someone plays good, we're there to support each other. And it makes the good times a lot better, and it makes the hard times, last shorter, I'd say.
Nicolai, I want to ask you about what Rasmus did last year. When you get a little bit of a head start when it comes to playing on the PGA Tour on a regular basis before he does, and I know that there had to be heartbreak at the end of 23, and what does he do in 24? He has this great year punctuated by what he did at the Irish Open. The feelings of satisfaction for him, what was it like to see him do the things that he did? And in particular, he holds that bunker shot. He beats Rory basically in his backyard. How much pride and how proud were you of him and the things that he did to now be where he is?
Yeah, it was good to see Ras really turn the final in 23 into a massive 24, and I think he accepted the situation and tried to get the best out of it now. And he had an amazing 24, and I remember I was out watching the back nine at Irish Open. And you just never know what's going to happen on that golf course, but he ended up making a few birdies coming down the stretch, and it was really, really cool to see, and very motivating for me as well. We talk about this where if one of us plays well, the other one sometimes come back and play better because you see it and you want it as well. But very, very happy for Ras and the success he's had in 24, and he's carried it on in 25 and has some good results, and happy to have him next to me in the States, and we're just trying to grow from here, and excited for what's to come.
You know that Luke Donald, you look at an event like this is a little bit of an opportunity to see guys together. Obviously, Shane and Rory won the event last year. How good is it for you guys to have this competitive opportunity, Rasmus, to play some alternate shot, to play some better ball, with the ambition, obviously, for both of you to represent Europe, be on a Ryder Cup team, and have a chance to pair together?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, we played a lot together. We played a lot of alternate shots and a lot of team competition. So I think we know each other's game pretty good. Obviously, you still have to go out there and hit the shots that's needed, but it's a good opportunity for us to show that we can help each other out. We can play well together, and we both got a goal of playing Ryder Cups. So if this is a step in that direction, it's going to be we're very much motivated for that.
I will tell you guys, when they changed this to a team competition, I wanted the better ball on the last day so there would be more fireworks, but I've actually come around to the grind that is required to play alternate shot on the last day. Nicolai, do you like having alternate shot on that Sunday?
100%. I think it's a better finish. It's if the better you play in a alternate shot, you can make a big move as well. But you can also, shoot level par. You're losing places, and if we're playing the better ball on a Sunday, it's going to be so many birdies, but you want the grind from each other. You want the stretch to be difficult, and 16, 17, 18, they're going to play difficult. There's going to be some hard shots, and you got to support each other, and that's why I think it's so exciting about this week. You can get off to a hot start in a better ball, and then you got to grind. And I think the tournament is definitely better with alternate shots on Sunday.
Rasmus, you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah, I didn't like it at all at first, and now I love the fact that the pressure that you really must feel to try to perform for your partner in that format. To me, I think it's more compelling on the last day. Let me ask you guys just one. I know that you want to get beyond the Masters, but just what was the most rewarding aspect of sharing the experience of both being in the field? Rasmus, let me start with you about being in the Masters. Obviously, you want to be in all the majors, but that one is particular. It's different. How special was it?
It was very special. It was a little hard, what to expect going in there, because I've obviously heard a lot from Nicolai playing the year before, and I've probably seen every video there is from the Masters the last 40 years. So, I feel like I knew the place a lot before I even got there. But I think when you get there, it's such a wow experience, and then to go out and play practice round with Nicolai made it even better. So it was a cool week. It was cool for our family to be there and see us walk inside the ropes playing together. So yeah, it's just it's the best week, best tournament.
Nicolai, for you, as your brother said, having had the experience, but then now sharing it with him, what was different with him being there? And like he said, practice rounds and other things and the full family experience. How was it different from being there alone?
I think our preparation is still very different. We played practice rounds together, but the way we went about our gym and short game and blah blah blah, it's very different. But I think being back in the house together and chit-chatting and the family being all together was really cool. I think that was the big difference this year. And but also to share those practice rounds is something you probably take for granted at times, and I think we're going to look back and say it was pretty special being out there on a Tuesday and Wednesday, maybe even Sunday, the week before we went out to play 18 holes, and it was super special, and it's something like that makes it all worth it. And obviously next thing you want to do is play really well in majors, but yeah, you got to get there first and have those moments, and it's been pretty cool so far, and hopefully we'll have many more practice rounds in majors.
My expectation is you will. All right, let me get you guys out of here with 5 to go. 5 quick questions. Rasmus, I'll start with you. What is the American food that you think your brother likes most? Is there a junk food? Is there a drive-through fast food experience that he likes most?
Chipotle.
100%.
Yeah, Chipotle. He's a big fan of that.
Nicolai, how about your brother? What does he like most? What American food? Quick food.
I'll go for the same.
Same.
I go for the same. Yeah, we have that quite a bit when we got some late evenings, so late practice sessions. So it did very good and very efficient.
Okay, you both have dogs. Nicolai, is your brother's dog his favorite breed, or is there another breed that he likes more than the dog that he currently has?
I think that there's a different breed that he probably likes more, but he's got 2 wonderful dogs and very, very cute dogs. So I think he's very happy with them.
Rasmus, how about your brother's dog? Is that his favorite breed?
I'd say yes to that. I don't think he's really. I don't think he has a specific, breed that is his favorite. So I think the Shih Tzu, he's got is his favorite.
Okay, guys, I've got a Shih Tzu, and he's so selfish, but he's so stinking cute that he gets away with whatever he wants. Is that how your dog is?
Yeah.
get away with everything.
They know it. They know that they're adorable, so they can get away with whatever they want to. All right, you guys love tennis. Rasmus, if your brother could be any tennis player, whether it be currently or all time, who would he want to be?
Roger Federer all day.
How about Nicolai? How about Rasmus?
Roger as well.
How could you not want to be fed? That is the only answer, is it not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's the coolest guy on tennis court.
No doubt about it. All right, last question for you. When it comes to this country, do you guys both have a favorite city? Is there a place that you like most? And if so, are they different cities?
Favorite city?
I think my answers at every time is when I've been around in LA, around LACC, in that area, it's been my favorite part of the United States. That's, to me, it's like I really feel like I'm in the US when I'm around LA, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, LA pretty much is that. If you take somebody to LA, go, that's America. That pretty much sums it up. Rasmus, how about you? Your favorite city in the U.S.?
Yeah, I'm on the West Coast as well. It's I can't really decide, but I had an amazing week at Pebble this year, so I think could be Pebble. Maybe I'd go San Diego. It's kind of, it's around there.
Well, you guys are picking like the best places in the country, naturally. Hey, listen, thank you both for taking the time. I know that you guys are going to have a great week no matter what. Play well. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, there is Nicolai Rasmus Hojgaard. We continue with you. It is a Wednesday edition of 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel. Also, you can listen to us on the PGA Tour Radio Network, Channel 92 on Sirius XM. We're back right after this. Back in here on this Wednesday, it is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. You can also listen. It is Channel 92. It's PGA Tour Radio on Sirius XM. And this segment brought to you by Peter Millar. For more than 2 decades, performance, luxury, and style being refined by the leader when it comes to anything you need with respect to apparel. Now, before we get to my next guest, who I'm sure can critique these selections, here are our picks for the Chevron Championship. And nice diversity here, although we do have, I believe, no, we don't. Well, yeah, we do. Nelly Korda. We do have the idiot trifecta in play with Emma, Jay Billis, and Brendan DeYoung. That never works out well when we have 3 or more of our team members picking the same player. That is usually they go in the other direction. Of course, I think we all picked Nelly to win the U.S. Women's Open, and she made like a quad on her 3rd hole, and her week was over. We hope that's not the case. She's won this championship. I am going with the young lady who I think is poised to break out. Johnson Wagner, betting on somebody, and Brooke Henderson, who's not had a great year, but certainly is very capable in major championships. All right, those are the Chevron Championship selections. Tom Abbott, who joins me now from Houston, is probably looking at those and going, you guys don't know anything. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
You guys really went out on a limb with those picks. Not exactly dark horses on the list there for you all.
I mean, do you want to be creative or do you want to be right? That's kind of the way I'm trying to go through life here. Of course, Tom, I'm never right. I haven't picked a winner yet all year. Let me ask you this to start with, because as somebody who knows all the events, the cultures of all of these great sponsors, their tournaments, what they're trying to achieve week in and week out. When the move was made from the California desert to Houston, change ain't easy for a lot of people. You're leaving behind history, nostalgia, familiarity. Is it getting its groove in Houston? Do you feel like they're making strides and this is feeling bigger with every passing year?
Yeah, I think that's a true statement. Obviously, it's a very big change from what we saw in the past for so many years at Mission Hills in Rancho Mirage, California, over there in the Coachella Valley in the Palm Springs area. It was a kind of an iconic spot for the LPGA Tour and for women's golf. And so it was always going to be a difficult task to take that championship and move it to another venue. But Chevron have been putting in a huge amount of effort and investment into the championship. And every year there are more activities outside of the ropes, which are usually centered behind the 9th and the 18th greens. When you watch our coverage, you'll see plenty of tents and hospitality units and activities that are going on there. So there's a lot of investment outside of the ropes. And in terms of inside the ropes, the golf course was renovated over a year ago now. So this is the second time around since that renovation. So they're trying hard to make this as good as it can be. But Gary, there's no getting away from the fact that it is a very different feel from what we had in the desert for so many years. And there are a lot of people that really miss Mission Hills and miss that environment. But it was starting to dwindle in the desert. The crowds were not as big as they were in the past. It was losing a bit of momentum over there at Mission Hills. So I think Chevron felt they had to make a change, and they changed it to what is now going to be their corporate home, and at the time was their biggest employee base. So there's a lot of support from Chevron. A lot of their employees are coming out. There's a huge, big tent behind the 9th green, which is just for their employees. So, they really have taken this very seriously, and they've put a huge amount of effort into trying making this as big as it can be.
Yeah, Tom, I was mentioning at the top of the program, if you look at these corporations that are aligning themselves with these major championships, this week it's $8 million. The U.S. Women's Open is over $12 million. You have 9.5, you have 10.4. And that's great. That's great for the players. Are you seeing across the board, not only this week, but all the other major championship venues, the investment in infrastructure, footprint, the idea that the experience can be more than just watching great players hit great golf shots? Are you seeing that collectively from all these major championship venues?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is some variety in the major championships. AIG, the AIG Women's Open, the British Open, some people call it. They've brought in concerts that we've had the last couple of years. They've really tried to inject something outside of the ropes and bring more of a youthful feel, a family environment, which you don't always get at the men's major championships. I think the women's majors are much more of a family-friendly environment. We're seeing that at the AIG Women's Open. The Amundi Evian Championship has kind of been the leader, in a sense, of investment into women's golf. You go back a long way with Evian, starting back in the 90s when they started to put a lot of money into it. And obviously it became a major championship, 12 years ago now. And they continued to invest. And that's really about the joie de vivre and the chicness of being there on Lake Geneva and the beautiful environment. And then when you look at the KPMG Women's PGA and the US Women's Open, the golf courses have been paramount to them. Obviously, you have that with the AIG Women's Open as well. But the venues have been so important for the KPMG and the US Women's Open. And we continued to see that a little bit different this year with PGA Frisco, which is a brand new venue that we've not seen Women's Major Championship golf on before. For the Women's PGA, and then Erin Hills, which many people will know for the US Women's Open, which has a bit of a different feel, not necessarily that traditional US Women's Open venue. But I think a lot of their focus has been on venues going to these famous golf courses in the United States and really standing out from the other events around the calendar, because they go to these storied venues, these cathedrals of the game, as the US Women's Open and the USGA has called it. So I think you're seeing this variety, this nice spread. And I think there is a lot of attention being paid to those major championships, and they are standing out from the other events, which they should be. They're major championships. They should stand out above the other tournaments on the calendar. And we're certainly seeing that. And we are seeing it, Gary, in terms of the financials. You mentioned that. The purses are much bigger at the majors.
Yeah, which is terrific. All right, let me start with Nelly. She came in here last year on a flyer, and it was almost like her and Scottie Scheffler were drafting off each other from a distance. Her numbers this year, scoring average, she's first on the LPGA, birdie percentage, first. What is the little ingredients, Tom, to fill in those margins to cross the line? What are you seeing from her that may be just incrementally different from last year?
I think confidence has been a big key with Nelly. She's mentioned that before. She just doesn't quite have the confidence that she had 12 months ago. She said it. My game is not quite there. I didn't quite have it today. She talked about confidence in her press conferences. When it comes to putting, Nelly, I think when she starts making those 5 to 10 foot putts with the great stroke and the pace, then you know that she's really on form. So I'd certainly look out for that from Nelly this week. You'd never write Nelly Korda off. And I think there is kind of a big three right now in women's golf in Gino Tidekin, Lydia Ko, and Nelly Korda. We saw that with your picks right before you brought me on. I think they're the big three. I think it could be a big four if Charlie Hull were to start winning consistently. She has a huge amount of popularity. And I think, you could see this kind of big four in women's golf, but Charlie doesn't quite have the winning record, but she certainly has the popularity. But when it comes to Nelly, she is trying to peak for the major championships. And so, you can look at the way she's played. As you say, she's played very well so far this year. If she was going to win one event to this point, she would want to win this one. So, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Nelly comes out and plays well on day one, but keep an eye on that putting.
Tom, as far as Lydia goes, last year was such a dream type of scenario with the events that she won, and not only that, but quantitatively crossing the line with respect to the benchmarks needed for LPGA Hall of Fame enshrinement. How much longer? Do you feel like maybe last year provided more oxygen for her in terms of maybe looking out further than maybe we thought 18, 24 months ago? What are your feelings on at 27, where she is as far as her headspace and her future?
Well, we had Rory McIlroy winning the Grand Slam at Augusta National. I think Lydia Ko would like to do that. Now, it's a little bit different in the women's game because there are 5 majors. I think Lydia would like to win all 5. She would like to win 4, obviously. She needs to win a US Women's Open or a KPMG Women's PGA to make it 4. She would like to win both to make it 5. She's talked about that. I've talked about that with her. It was very much on her mind at the beginning of this year. She was talking about those major championship venues, and she was kind of asking me whether I had played either one of them and what they were like. So she's very focused on the KPMG and the US Women's Open. I think if she came out this year and won both of those and made it all 5 majors in her pocket, she might step away. I'm not sure what else there would be for her to achieve in the game. But if she doesn't win one of those 2 majors or either one of those majors this year, then I think we could see her coming back and trying to do that in subsequent years. But I don't think she will be out here for the long haul. She said she's going to retire at 30, so only a few years left. That's kind of been a little bit vaguer in the last few years about whether that 30 is a firm retirement number. It's easy to make a retirement number when you're younger, and then when you get to that number, you think, hold on a minute, I can play for a bit more, I can work for a bit longer. She's become this sort of elder stateswoman, if you like, of the LPGA Tour, even though she's still in her 20s. She's a dame. She's been recognized by the government and of New Zealand for her services to the country. So she's Dame Lydia Ko. She has a tremendous amount of respect. And I think she is the sort of leading figure in the women's game and still being this leading figure inside the ropes. I think a lot of people will look to her for words of wisdom when she does step away. And I can see her certainly being involved in the women's game, even when her playing days are over, and potentially coming back and playing, after she has a family or whatever happens in her private life. So I think at the moment, she's really focused on those major championships. She would like to win this one. Obviously, everybody wants to win each week. But I think her real focus is going to be the Women's PGA and the US Women's Open.
Listen, my friend, thank you for taking the time. You're one of the most reliable, valuable voices covering women's golf. Good to see your face. Thanks so much.
Good to be with you, Gary.
All right, there is Tom Abbott, of course, big part of the coverage coming up on NBC, Golf Channel, and Peacock. Of course, ESPN Plus as well, providing additional coverage streaming-wise. We're back. We come back. Our picks and dogs coming up next on 5 Clubs. It is time for the featured creatures. That's right, Dogs of the Week. Send them in, dogs@5clubsgolf.com. This segment brought to you by Pinehurst Resort, the cradle of American golf. Let's get to them. Let's take a look at our dogs this week. And I believe we are starting with Rosie. And the owner is Vijay Zala. That is at the Jimmy Clay Golf Course in Austin, Texas. What an adorable little man right there. How about Sevi Ballesteros? That's him right there. He's the boss of Nevada Bob's Golf Shop in Jackson, Mississippi. The owners are Tony Bishop and Marcy Simonson. Next is Blue. Blue's in a good spot. How about looking out at Stillwater Cove at Pebble Beach? That is a beautiful dog. Blue, the owner is Todd Lincoln. And then finally, from the Highland Springs Country Club in Springfield, Missouri, of course the dog's name is Ozark, is an Aussie Door, an Australian Shepherd Labrador Retriever mix. Send those dogs in. Those are a great collection of dogs this week. We hope these are not dogs, because those are our picks for the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. Bet with your head and not over it. All right, folks, Rory McIlroy today on Golf Today, and happy birthday to our associate producer, Tyler. Have a great Wednesday.